to be. This was made for me. You can't kill the soul of a warrior.
What's up, y'all? I'm Reese Mack.
And I'm Dr. JB.
And we are Respected Equal
Perspectives.
Facts.
So we're just two people from Flint who have gone through some universal things and want to talk about universal things that affect us from the aspect of healing and growing. Might not be for everybody, but for whoever it's for, you gon' do your thing.
Understand this is definitely a judgment-free zone. However, what we're giving you is what we've learned through our own experiences. And hopefully what you'll take from this will help you heal in your journey as well.
Facts.
Respect.
All right. Who you be?
Well, Reese Mack, who you are?
I'm Dr. JB.
And we are
Respected Equal Perspectives. So today's topic is the biggest misconception is that most relationships end because of money and infidelity. Reese Mack, talk to me.
Ooh.
Talk to me.
I definitely think that's the biggest misconception with relationships ending. I don't think that they have. I don't think, although I think that money and infidelity may be a byline to it, I don't think it's actually the reason as to why most relationships end.
Okay.
I think that most relationships end not because of money and infidelity, but because of lack of compromise or even the refusal to change.
Oh, you got to elaborate on that. What you mean?
Okay. So, two individuals have completely two different paths and they're trying to mesh lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in order for you to live life on I don't want to use a balanced land, but in a balance of harmony, those two individuals who grew up differently from each other have to find a way to coexist, right?
Okay.
Because what one has necessarily been taught, the other may have not gotten that same upbringing. And what they were taught, this person has no clue about either, right? That's the thing about different paths. And when you mesh those, there's going to have to be a give and take, right?
Okay.
That creates changes within you two dynamic in order for you guys to live in a harmonious state.
Okay.
Right?
So could that perspective be, all right, so in me being married, right, I come from the example of it's a man's job to protect and provide, right?
Okay.
And my wife comes from that same reality, right?
Right.
Comes from that same reality. So financially, with money, my father was horrible. But my mother, she was real frugal. For all we know, she probably had $100 grand stashed up under the mattress.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with my wife's parents, it was a typical situation, coming from Flint. Most people work for GM. Boom. So we get together. I have this idea of money from watching my father, but learning from my mother. And then she just has no concept at all. So you bring those two together and it's, all right, I believe in saving, you believe in spending. So if there's a point in time to where I run into a bad situation, or not even bad situation, I get laid off, how comfortable are you to say, you know what, babe, it's cool. You can chill for a minute, you've been working hard, I'll hold it down. How realistic is that?
In today's world?
I mean, well, period. Coming from two different realities.
Not very,
to your point.
Not very realistic, right?
Okay.
To the example in which you've given, right? To where you had, you grew up that your father was frugal. I mean, your father was frivolous.
Yeah.
And your mother was frugal, right? Mm-hmm. But you have this understanding in a relationship that, for all intents and purposes, you are the head of that, right?
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Now, if the counterpart's experience is that the man takes care and pays all the bills, right?
Yeah.
But this counterpart works, they have money coming in too. Here's the problem. You learned from watching your father's disasters, right?
Right.
And watching your mother's corrections.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
But she also learned from her parents where maybe her father took care of all the bills and allowed her to keep all her money.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So that wasn't a household based on saving, right? But because of what you went through in your household, you want to do more saving. Now you have a spender, right? In order for you to coexist, there's going to have to be a give and take. Because if not, then there's going to be a constant bump of heads. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, like an example of one of those bumping head situations is all right. So if I'm paying majority of the bills, right, and I'm paying majority of the bills, and you have an income as well, and then let's say 3 to 5 years into the marriage, I come to you and I go, hey, so how much money you got saved? And you go, I mean, I got
$50.
I got a couple hundred. So then you question and you go, so what the hell I've been sitting here paying all these bills and holding down the fort when you ain't got nothing saved, you just spending. But what I had to chalk that up to was, how could I have that expectation when me and her never had that conversation about we had the conversation about what my position was, but I didn't have the conversation as to say what I need you to do. So
it was an incomplete conversation?
Well, there was, okay. It was a one-sided conversation.
Let me ask you this, because that gives an enlightenment to a new thought that I just had.
Okay.
So then, if that is the case, could we add a different topic as one of the reasons why relationships end quite often?
What's that?
Is the failure to properly communicate and get to know your partner before meshing lives?
No.
No?
I mean, no, we can add that, but I mean, that's a difficult thing because...
Okay.
All right, so you're in a relationship with somebody, right?
Right.
So having a relationship is one foundation, right?
Okay.
But then if you add to that relationship, you introduce children. That foundation of that communication got to be revisited because now something is happening to change the dynamic in the relationship, or if it's a marriage, in that marriage. So then even after kids, let's say the two of you were in an apartment and then you say, oh, okay, cool. Now let's move to that next point of buying a house. That's a whole nother different foundation that got to be established. A whole new realm of communication that got to be established.
I mean, and I hate to say it like this, but it's the truth. Dating in this century is absolutely horrible.
Wait a minute, did you just say this century?
Yes, I did.
Like, cause
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But I don't think it's ever been like that though.
I disagree.
I'm talking about since we've been alive. I don't think there has been
maybe not since we've been alive, but I guess we could take that example from the baby boomers, right?
We see how that turned out. It
Well,
wasn't like that was, you know what I'm saying? It ain't like that was the cream of the crop because
the problem was they had a hard time figuring out who they were to be able to have these conversations because they were given these identities by their parents before, right? That they had to live by. They weren't able to be themselves. We are a generation that is being allowed to be ourselves, you know, and the only limitations being put on us is the ones that we are putting on ourselves. Okay. Right? Okay. So, but I referred to that time frame because what you at least had was the hey, I want to take you out. Okay. On Friday at 8:00. right?
Okay.
And they come pick you up and take you out on Friday, and they bring you back by 11:30, right? Because Daddy was in the house,
Right.
watching through the window with the shotgun.
Right.
You kissed on the cheek, and you left.
And they
right?
was also sneaking out too.
Well,
Right. All right.
that
Right.
yes, but that didn't happen at the beginning. That wasn't a first date thing, right?
Okay.
But today's first date is, let me holler at you on this online chat real quick. Okay, I'm gonna send you a picture of my thing.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm saying, even looking back
Can
at
you
that
come
time,
over by about 1:30 a.m.? I'll be ready. And we already involved physically. And they base a relationship off the physical attraction and that alone. So the dating part, the getting to know phase, the finding out what someone likes phase, is skipped over
Yeah, but
a lot, right?
I
So they
believe-
don't have the conversation that you're talking about. But because I agree with what you said, it needs to be revisited as situations and circumstances change.
nah, but we both know whether you dating, whether you take the time to what you think is get to know. The reality of it is you don't fully know somebody until you live with them anyway.
That is true, right? Because I understand that what you end up getting when you're dating someone is the salesperson, right? And no one knows how long that person is going to play that role. Okay? I think that is dependent upon how much they're trying to hide or change within themselves that has made people walk away or whatever the case may be. But the getting to know phase, if you're doing it, if you're really looking at it through clear eyes and not the eyes of lust or the eyes of loneliness, right? If you're looking at it through clear eyes, people show you who they are. Isn't that what Maya Angelou said? When people show you who they are, believe them. So when you had a conversation or y'all went out and you watched him or her watch every girl that walked past, that was a red flag. But so often today, we completely disregard the red flags, right? Until it leads us to a point of now it's a disaster. Because all those red flags, which were points of showing you who this person was, you disregarded and didn't believe.
Okay, so then
So you never had the conversation.
So let's tie that back to money. So let's say if what you're saying is true, you take the time, you get to know this person, right? You and the person vibe and y'all building, and you say, all right, cool. Well, we got a great common ground. All right, cool. We gonna take it to this next step. Right. Instead of getting married first, we gonna live with each other, right? So you're living with each other. You're paying bills together, and you're doing X, Y, and Z. Circumstance might change to where y'all might have had all these conversations about how you're gonna do the finances. So in these conversations about performing the abilities or how we're gonna roll out with these finances, that person still sits up there and does something completely, totally different. Y'all communicated about it. Hey, this is what we're gonna do with finances. So then they turn around and they do something totally different from exactly what y'all talked about. So then, is the money the issue? Or is the communication or the lack thereof follow through on the communication the issue? You know what I'm saying? Because you and I could be sitting up there trying to establishing the process of buying a house, right?
Okay.
We can lay out this plan and say, all right, we're going to get these credit cards. Yeah, we're going to get these credit cards. We're going to build our credit. And I'm talking about a real situation right now. Okay? We're going to do this and we're going to build our credit.
Okay.
Right? You're going to pay off some things. I'm going to pay off some things because we know exactly what we got to take care of, right?
Right.
Walk away, break, cool. This is what we're going to do. A year from that point, you wake up one morning and your credit score drops 75 points. And you like, what the hell? Like, I've been paying stuff on time.
What is this?
You know what I'm saying?
I don't owe nobody anything.
I've been paying stuff on time. Instead of doing 30%, using 30% of my credit card, I'm doing like 10, 15%. I'm just using it to
cut
where
it in half, trying to help it a little bit better.
I'm over here just taking the $14.99 for Netflix, and I'm putting it on this credit card, and that's all I'm using it for. Pay it off before the bill comes, right? That's what I'm doing. Based off our dialogue, I think that's what you doing, or somewhere similar. But then I find out, okay, my credit score didn't drop because I'm attached to a card that ain't got nothing to do with me, that I didn't even know I was attached to. But then turn around and that credit card is maxed out. So it's not the money, you know what I mean? It's not the money, it's not the credit card that I'm pissed about. What I'm pissed about is we didn't sit up here and had a whole conversation. We didn't had a whole conversation, and we've been running this plan for a year only to find out you've been doing something totally different. So it's not even the money. It's the lack of respect. The lack of respect to hold up your end of what
the
we
deal
talked
that
about.
you guys decided on.
So then I'm gonna spin this a little bit,
All
right?
right.
So then if I decided to get emotional, right? If I decided to get emotional because, like, damn, I can't even trust this person. They're talking to me, right? They're having a whole conversation with me at different points. They start becoming not attractive to me anymore. I'm not even sexually motivated to roll with them. The embrace feel like a job. It don't feel like I love this person.
Like a desire.
Yeah, I love this person and I'm in love with this person. I desire this person and I want to show my affection. If I allow myself to get emotional, I'm looking at this person like, man, you can go. You can go. And I'm just buying time. So that's when we get into infidelity, because the emotions will allow us to make an emotional decision.
And I don't think that. I like how you said that. Let me.
look like you're a little stuck. Like.
let me say that I like how you said that. And I'm going to add to that from the conversations we had. It's one thing that you always say.
What's that?
You said, with executive decision making comes what?
Executive power.
And with executive power becomes what?
Executive consequences.
Executive consequences.
Right.
So if you had that talk at the beginning to get on one accord towards this goal,
okay,
and in the midst of you attacking the goal the way that you guys agreed to, right? You find out that she hasn't been attacking the goal in the same way, as well as withholding information from you that directly affects you, right?
Yeah.
At that point, she has disregarded your deal.
Right.
Right? So whatever consequences you come to for that, whatever you deem is the reaction for that, those consequences are those in what she earned because she didn't keep her word. So it's still not deteriorating because of money per se. The money was the byline of it, or even infidelity per se, right? It is the lack of compromising or the lack of sticking to the deal.
Or just feeling disrespected. Because if you and I have a conversation, right?
Okay.
And we say we're gonna do X, Y, and Z, and I turn around and I do something totally different. A, you're gonna feel like you just wasted a whole bunch of words. And two, you're gonna feel disrespected because it was through the respect that we're having the conversation to begin with. That makes sense?
It does.
Okay. And then I'll go even further to say,
please,
I will chalk it up to I feel disrespected. But if I'm looking at it from a logical and sensible perspective, I'ma say this person is not disrespecting me. They're disrespecting themselves, but that still don't mean I'm not affected by it.
Well, yes, you're affected by it, right? Okay. But, we here's the thing. Since we try and remove our feelings from the situations we face because they lead to emotional decisions, that are not always, you know, in a way that is going to be beneficial for us.
Okay.
It's the feeling that you have of being disrespected, because like I tell you, I feel disrespected, right? That has no weight here nor there. The bottom line is she didn't stick to your deal. Right? So this is a deal not that you made alone, that she says she can do with you. So she didn't hold up her end of the bargain, right? So the feeling of disrespect, that's a result of everything else, right? The feeling is a back end result. The actual issue or the reason why it deteriorates is because she didn't hold up her bargain, right? She wasn't real with it. She wasn't real with it, and she wasn't real with you. So it wasn't the feeling of disrespect that made you say, you know what, you can go. It was the, I can't trust what you're saying to me because you don't stick to your word. Right.
That makes sense. So, could we go farther to say that the biggest misconception is that relationships, they don't end because of money and or infidelity? We say they end because one of the parties can't check their emotions and stop themselves from making emotional decisions. So we got the misconception.
Well, see, I think we can't say that because not all bad decisions are emotional.
Ooh.
They're just they're thoughtless, right? They don't. People. I know people who make decisions on a whim, right? For instance, for those who are spenders or shoppers, I'm a shopper, who buy on impulse, right? No thoughts to it whatsoever. It's not an emotional thing. It's an impulse, right? And after the impulse is done, now it's a, oh snap, I shouldn't have did that, right? It wasn't an emotion that led to the impulse of buying. It's the impulse itself, right? That's the self-restraint to stay in line with the goals that were set for what it is you have, right? I don't think that shopping or spending, because I do shopping and spending, it's not an emotional thing. It's an impulsive thing, right?
But that's a different context, though. And because
elaborate.
All right. So from that perspective, the reason why I say that's a different context, because we're talking about shopping. But if we want to be fair, if we say you're doing it off an impulse buy or impulse purchase, that is an emotional decision because there is no conscious thought put into it. What is an impulse? If you just do something, that means you're not consciously paying attention to the action, to the action that causes the behavior, or the behavior that causes the action.
Okay. I disagree because I don't think it's the conscious thought. I think it's the lack of thought, period.
But that's what makes it an emotional decision.
But it's not an impulsive shopper.
Because
that's not an emotional decision. That's just not it's an impulse.
When you're being impulsive, are you being rational? Are you being conscious? Are you being logical? Impulsive. Because an emotional decision, if we have a conversation about something and we say, we gonna do this, and then you turn around and you do something else, that within itself, that's an impulsive reaction, right? Because we've already talked about it. We've consciously decided on what we were gonna do. And then you impulsively do something else. So if you impulsively did that, there was no thought put into this because you're not even paying attention to what the hell you agreed to. So the
question is, does a thoughtless action require emotion to commit it? Because my experience is that a thoughtless action, the emotion comes after the thoughtless action happens. In my experience, the emotion after the thoughtless daunting tale of, okay, this is real story.
Okay.
Someone I knew was barely making it with what they had.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But they had a partner who was willing to put in the work to give them what they desired.
Okay.
Right? and had been doing that, right? Had been did it to the tune of, oh my gosh, so many different changes or upgrades in living.
Mhm.
Okay. So the next thing that happened was there was a purchase of a vehicle that was well outside of the means, right?
Okay.
And there was no consultation
Mhm.
with the person who the life was meshed with.
Mhm.
There was no consideration of the position it would put them in as a couple.
Mhm.
There was no thought whatsoever. The emotion came after, right? After the act was done. The emotion came after,
The realization.
as if it was going to save them from consequences.
Right, the realization.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying. So if we make a choice, right? We make a decision. If we have to think about it after the fact, the reason why it was an emotional decision because we didn't weigh the pros and cons. We didn't say, okay, before I do this, if I do this, then this is going to happen. If I don't do this, then this is not going to happen. If we do that after the fact, that supports that it was an emotional decision because it was a knee-jerk reaction. There was no conscious thought to justify why you did what you did.
I disagree because
Okay.
then that makes it sound like the opposite of rational is emotional, and it's not. The opposite of rational is irrational.
No,
right?
no. Rational, another term for rational from a conflict standpoint, right? Another term for rational would be factual. That's just like if you and I were at work, right? If we're having a task conflict and we're sitting there saying, I think you should do it this way because the work or the job description says blah, 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 blah. And I say, well, nah, I think we should do it this way because in this step down here, it also says we should do X, Y, and Z. That task conflict is based off factual information. That's rational. But then in a relationship conflict, that's a disagreement because I feel like you're not honoring or respecting my perspective. That's emotional because I gotta react to that. Does that make sense? Relationship conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Task conflict is rational. It's about the facts. A relationship conflict is emotional because it's based off me feeling like you don't see where I'm coming from to the point to where you judging me or you being disrespectful. In order for me to respond to that, I gotta react to it. It's sparking something within me emotionally.
Let me ask you this: feeling disregarded equals disrespect to you?
No.
No, I'm asking. I'm asking.
Feeling disregarded
Equals disrespect to you?
Ooh, okay. Feeling disregarded. Um, ooh. I'm gonna have to say yes. Because if you disregard my perspective, that means you don't respect my point of view. You don't respect the nature of who I am if you disregard. And that's why I said if we had a conversation about something and you decided to do something else or to support your point, you're gonna do something that's gonna put us in a interesting financial place. You wasn't thinking about the us. That's what I mean by the emotional decision. You wasn't thinking about the us. You was thinking about the you. And then after you realize, oh, this all up. Why? Because it was emotional. There was no conscious thought put into it. Why? Because if there was some conscious thought, then you wouldn't be feeling how you feeling, and I wouldn't have this look on my face like you dummy.
Yeah. See,
You know what I'm saying?
I still disagree that rational and emotional they can't be one and the same. I think I agree with the way you said it with, when you gave the work
Yeah,
example,
like the
right?
conflict.
You
Yeah.
said and they're using facts. I think the problem or the issue is when confronting a conflict in a relationship, they don't base it off of facts. They bring the feelings first.
I disagree with that.
Ooh.
Because, all right, so when we looking at conflict within a relationship, when one of those people who tends to be emotional feel like they don't have anything relevant, anything factually relevant,
Mm-hmm.
they sometimes will say something that they know they ain't got no business saying to totally change the whole concept of what they was talking about, thus escalating the conflict because you'll hit that person with that jab. You know what I mean?
So,
And
so
it's a low blow.
basically, their answer to their lack of facts is an emotional response.
Yes.
So
And
the
escalated.
irrational decision leads to an emotional response in the form of realization, is what it sounds like to me.
Well, to be irrational, well, couldn't we say to be irrational is being emotional?
No.
How? How can we not say that?
I don't think that you can, right? And I want to say, because you can still be irrational without having your emotions present. You can still make a decision without having emotions present.
No.
I think people do that quite often, right?
All right, so let's clear it up right here.
All right.
Let's look up irrational. Because we're not gonna go based off what we think it is. We're gonna go off the meaning itself. Right? So irrational. Irrational. That's the first definition says, so we're gonna look at Merriam-Webster. So Merriam-Webster says lacking usual or normal mental clarity or coherence.
Okay.
Not endowed with reason or understanding.
Okay.
All right?
Uh-huh.
So, or not governed by or according to reason. So when we're being emotional, there is no mental clarity.
Can you look up emotional for me?
Yes, we can look up emotional. So now we're gonna look up emotional people, since we got to turn into or provide proper context.
I don't think that's emotional.
No, that's, I put TONOM. All right. So what if
that's not it?
No, if we hit it, it's gonna pop up. So emotional. So the definition of emotion.
Yes, I like this. So the definition of emotional, right? It says of or relating to emotion, right?
Okay.
Dominated by or prone to emotion.
Okay.
Appealing to or arousing emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Even the fourth one says markedly aroused or agitated in feelings or sensibility, right? Mm-hmm. You can be rational and not be emotional. You can make impulsive decisions without an emotion being present.
No, you just said. You just said you can be rational without being emotional. Yeah, that's very true. Did you mean to say irrational?
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay. So you can be irrational without being emotional. You can make a decision without giving an emotional thought, or according to what this definition is of.
All right, we got to pause that. Why? Because
Okay.
now if we look at the synonyms, if we look at the synonyms for emotional, impassioned, intense, passionate.
Okay.
So you can be passionate about something, but not in a positive sense, not in a, you know what I mean? You can be passionate about something for, hey, this is my drive and determination, but you can also be passionate in a negative aspect, which is flaming or fiery. You know what I mean? So,
and I think that emotional term would apply for the infidelity side of this we're talking about, right? Let me say it like this. Okay. My experience is that, well, at least before the newer generation came along.
Why do you keep saying the newer generation?
Jesus.
Why do you keep saying
that?
Because
there was a point in life where there was a reason for cheating, right? You could narrow it down, or most commonly say that men and women cheat differently, right? Okay. When a man, you can say this before, because I don't think you can say it. I don't think you can say it now. Right. But you can say before that a man cheats for physical, right? When a woman cheats, it's emotional, right? That was the commonality that you could say before people got a little bit more freer with their spirits in their bodies, that they cheated for different, right?
Mhm.
So in the case of a woman cheating on their partner,
Mhm.
most times it was tied to an emotional decision.
Mhm.
Whether it was it tied to an emotional decision, whether it was I'm doing this because I didn't get the attention that I needed from my partner.
Okay.
They disregarded, they didn't remind me how they felt about me,
Mhm.
or
Well,
that night you yelled at me and
No,
I
look.
didn't know how to handle it, and I went
No,
over here and he consulted me and
No, they didn't give you the attention because they was too busy working to pay
taking
for
care of the
every-
decisions in which you made that were irrational.
That could have been one part.
Right?
Of it, yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that the emotional side definitely ties into why people commit those acts, but it still doesn't become a basis or a reason as to why the relationship deteriorates. Those said acts are not the
Oh, okay.
reason for the deterioration.
Okay.
It's the intricate details in between, right?
So will we say it's the communication?
Yes, right?
But-
Because
okay.
if we're in a relationship, right,
Mhm.
and my issue with you is you don't remind me that you care for me,
Mhm.
and your issue with me is I'm frivolous with money and I don't save.
Mhm.
If we never have that conversation, how do we even begin to see the other one's point of view? If I never told you, I need you to tell me how you feel about me sometimes so I know, because sometimes you can't be read. How do you know that? If you don't
Okay.
tell me, I need you to make better efforts at saving so that we have a nest egg and a little bit of security. How do I know that, right? So the
then-
lack of communication about the things in which we need is what leads to the basis of that being a possibility for the relationship to end.
All right. So
We've been missing that.
All right. So I agree with that halfway.
Okay.
Because I won't say it's communication. I will say it's effective communication. And the reason
Yes.
why I say that is because we can have some dialogue, right? But if you get emotional,
Mm-hmm.
if you get emotional,
You're not going to be able to communicate with me on a rational standpoint to be able to get your point across. Right?
Why? Because then it creates two things that will then become some later podcast episodes.
Yes.
If you get emotional, that means you're listening
to be offended instead of listening to understand.
Then the second portion of that is, from a communicational standpoint, if I am saying something to you, right, and you have an immediate response, and it's an emotional response, I know you didn't hear anything that I said. You know what I mean? Because nobody is processing that information.
That's what I was just going to say. Furthermore,
quickly.
that word is there. If I tell you something that I am feeling and you don't take a moment to process what I said, right, or process how I said it made me feel, but yet you have a response, you were listening for your turn, right?
Okay.
Because now this is no longer about even effectively communicating. It's about taking the sweat off of you and placing it on me, right? That light was a little bit too heavy for you to deal with. You didn't want to take what I had to say because you know what I was saying was true, and because you knew it would require you to change. And no one wants to hear it was your fault, or you did this, or you made me feel less than, or you did that, right? So it completely throws it off. So I agree. Yes, effective communication is where this is curved, right? Yeah. You could watch a lot of relationships improve if they just figured out how to effectively communicate. But I understand that we didn't come from the same past. So our idea of communication may be different, right?
So then let's look at it. Let's look at it from this point, because now we're gonna go into that last entity. So I think my biggest issue when we're looking at relationships ending from a communicative standpoint is anytime the other person is always starting off with "I feel like,"
Oh, that's a dead ender.
because I wanna listen, but if everything is rooted in the feelings, I feel like the perception for me is, so you haven't done anything. Well, I felt like when you said, yeah, but the question is why did I say that? So in the communication portion of it, and us saying the biggest misconception is that relationships end because of money and infidelity, can we also say that it's a misconception, or those two entities are a misconception because pride is a contributing factor more so than anything else?
I agree that I agree to that. I think that pride is the factor that makes emotion present in the communicative stance of being on one accord.
Ooh. Ooh. Okay.
Can I go a little deeper on that?
You're doing your thing.
All right. So
Okay.
I don't believe that when you are coming to communicate to be on one accord or to get to an understanding, that you come to that table with your feelings, right?
Okay.
Which is why I don't believe that issues should be addressed immediately, because neither side has had a chance to process what has happened, right? What has went on, how it made them feel, so that they can take away their feelings from it and present to the person or their counterpart just facts of what the issue is. Because the one thing I can't do is I can't change your feelings.
Right.
What I can do though is I can bring the facts to shed a light as to where the shortcomings come up, right?
But then to add to that, so how long are we talking? And the only reason why I say that is because I've been in situations with my wife to where 3 days will pass and then she'll try to bring up a situation that happened and try to go through it when, no, we can't do it that way. Because at this point, I don't even remember what it was really about. I don't remember the intricate details, and I don't even remember what my emotional state was at that point.
Most times people don't after 2 and 3 days. It shouldn't be 2 and 3 days.
Okay.
If this issue that you and I just had happened at 5 o'clock p.m., I'm probably not going to talk to you for the rest of the night about this issue, because I'm going to still have my emotions until I process what happened, right? And I have to literally step away and take a look at what really happened and not what I felt happened, right? So I'm not going to talk to you that night because I need to process how it made me feel, and then say and talk to myself and be like, okay, we know how you felt, but what really happened, right? Because when I come to the table, I'm going to come to you with facts. Facts is, you didn't tell me you had, in the example you gave from earlier, facts is you didn't tell me you had a credit card in my name.
That's what it's how that is.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the fact. You didn't tell me is. Fact is the failure of you not telling me that so that I could rectify it before I knew about it is it dropped my credit score 75 points.
Okay.
Those are facts. We made a deal that we were going to both be doing this.
Right.
And I've done it and you didn't.
And that's fact.
Those are all facts.
Right.
That is the discussion. How you felt about me being angry about the fact that you didn't hold up your end of the bargain, all that makes no difference.
Right.
Because I can't change your feelings.
Because I didn't feel like you should have used that tone, even though I did X, Y,
I
and
can't
Z.
change your feelings, right? Which is why I don't have conversations that have upsetted me, immediately. I need to take a minute to process this, because if I didn't take a process, I'm just reacting off of what my feeling saw, and it's all wrong, right?
Mhm.
So I just then reacted based off my feelings saw. My feelings was wrong from jump. So now I didn't create a bigger ball because I started doing emotional things
Mhm.
because my feelings saw something different than what it was,
Mm.
right?
Okay. All right. So then would it be fair to say that sometimes, not even picking your battles, sometimes some things in a relationship or even in a marriage, sometimes they can just happen and we don't even need to talk about it. Does everything need to be talked about?
That involves two people, yes. It's two people involved. Why would you take it one sided and be the only person that talks about it or knows about it,
No,
right?
no, no. I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm just saying because if you truly believe that, then that would be an aspect of saying the statement "pick your battles" is false. Because if you say something about everything, wouldn't that naturally put that person on the defense and they have the right to be on the defense because you're saying something about everything?
It depends on if you're saying something about everything because your feelings or your emotions are leading you to say something because you're trying to find something wrong with everything, right?
Okay.
Someone who sits back and they bring if what you get every day is you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this, that is not based on fact. That's based on it's based on and being charged by emotions.
So to truly close this out, the topic was the biggest misconception is that most relationships end because of money and infidelity. So from this conversation, we were able to touch on so many different things.
And we could understand that most of them don't end because of money and infidelity, but for the lack of compromise, trust, and the overindulgence of pride.
Ooh, that's facts. Who you
Yeah.
be? Who you be?
I'm Rishi Mack. Who are you?
I'm Dr. JB.
And we are
Respected Equal Perspectives.
Peace.
You can't kill the soul of a warrior. No one said it would be easier, that they prey on my phone. I'll never let you beat me, I'm still standing tall. A warrior. No one said it would be easier, that they prey on my phone.